Hello everyone, welcome back, buongiorno. And because I said in Italian, I'm sure you've guessed I'm making an Italian dish and you would be absolutely right. What I'm making for you today is an eggplant parmesan, or like they say in Italy, melanzane di Parmigiana. And it's a classic Italian dish. There are many versions of it. In the US, you will see a version with breadcrumbs and egg wash and other things, but I'm going to show you how to do it the authentic Italian way. So let's get started. First things first, let's prep our eggplant, which is the hero of the dish. For this, you want to slice these down to about 5 millimeter in thickness. It doesn't have to be exact, of course, but approximately that. Not too thick, but not too thin either. So I'm just going to cut them down with my chef's knife. So you can use any knife you're comfortable with. So if you look at that, that's about the thickness of each slice that you want. So once you cut this, then what we're going to do, you'll see I have a colander here. This is a very important step, and throughout this video there's going to be some important tips and tricks that you must follow to get the perfect Parmesan. So the first thing you do is you take your eggplant, and what I like to do is I like to score them just a little gently with the sharp edge of your knife. Just score them on both sides, and once you're done scoring them, you take them and put them in salt. So I have on my plate over here, as you can see, I have some salt. So I'm going to just quickly coat my eggplants in that salt. Now, why do I do this? That's the important part. So once I do that, I put it in a colander that you can see over here. The reason we do this is that will drain the eggplant of any bitter fluids that might be in there. And those do not help the dish in any way. We want a nice sweet eggplant parmigiana. So we do this for now, and we are going to cut them up, the rest of the eggplant, and stack them in the colander and leave them aside for about 20 minutes. Okay, I've sliced up all my eggplants. I've stacked them here in a colander and they're salted down. The salt is going to release all the moisture. So what I'm going to do now is take a little plate, the same plate I put my salt in, and cover it and just press it down gently. You don't want to do it too hard. And all my eggplants are in there. We'll leave this aside for 20 minutes. That will drain all the moisture. You can leave it on your cutting board or put it in the sink. I'm actually going to keep it in my sink so that all the moisture drains, and we'll get to the next step. Okay, so my eggplants are nice and they're going to take about 20 minutes to get all the moisture out and where I want them. In the meantime, I'm going to prep my tomato sauce. Now, normally I make a homemade sauce, but today, as you can see, I'm going to use a store-bought sauce. The store-bought sauces are usually very light on garlic and spices, and I like them more garlicky. That gives the eggplant parmesan more flavor. So I have some olive oil in a small pot over here, and to that I'm going to add garlic. So this is going to enhance the flavor of my eggplant parmesan significantly, and that's what I am looking for. So I add my garlic, and we try not to waste, so we get the last bit of garlic out. Aha, got it. So give that a quick stir. It doesn't have to cook too much, and you don't want to brown it either. So that's done. So to this, I will add tomato sauce. I'm going to add about half a bottle, which is all I need for today. So once I add that, I give that a stir, and the only thing I'm going to do to this now is add some oregano. If you have fresh oregano, great. If you don't, then certainly something like this works as well. And so I'll add some, this is just dried and chopped oregano. So add about half a teaspoon of oregano to it. Some people add parsley and other spices, but I like to keep it simple because my sauce over here, this particular one, has tomato and basil in it already. So it has basil already in there. So that's good. My sauce is going. I'll just let that simmer and thicken up a bit, and that should be ready for my eggplant parmesan when we come back. Okay, so now I've taken out our eggplant from the colander and I've rinsed it out completely, so we remove the salt. We don't want the salt in there. The salt was just to drain the moisture. And a lot of people ask if it's okay to leave the skin on. Absolutely, the skin have a lot of nutrients and it helps bind this together, so please leave the skin on. What we want to do is make sure they're nice and dry. So I have a paper towel underneath. I'm putting one on top and give them a gentle press. Don't squeeze them too hard. Just a sort of gentle press on top. to remove any excess moisture, and you can see I have some moisture coming out on my paper towel. So we'll do that a couple of times, make sure it's as dry as possible. You want to get these as dry so that they fry off nicely, which is the next step. So there you go. Now here is the key difference between what's done typically in the restaurants and in the US and the authentic Italian way. In the authentic Italian way, we're not going to use an egg wash, so this is completely vegetarian, and we're not going to use breadcrumbs either. We simply use flour. So I have some flour here. We drop our eggplant in there, just coat both sides gently. Now don't let this sit in the flour for too long, because the flour will get in there and get soggy. So what I'm going to do is dust off any excess flour just like that and drop it in hot oil. This is olive oil. You can use butter or any other oil you want. And it's at a medium temperature, so it's going to give a gentle sizzle and cook off completely. So I'll do that with all my remaining eggplants, and then we will fry them to a golden brown. Okay, so my slices are beautiful and golden brown. They're ready to come out. So you can see both sides are perfect brown. We don't want them too brown. We take them out and put them on a paper towel to drain the excess oil. And once we're done with this, we have our tomato sauce ready over here. As you can see, it's a little thicker than when we started. That's the idea. And now the final step is just assembling our Parmesan to put it in the oven. And we're all set. Okay, so our final step is assembly for the oven. And here's another trick for you. So I'm going to put a layer of my nice thick tomato sauce with the extra garlic that I put on the bottom. The reason I do that is when you do this, then the eggplant will not stick to the dish. So we just coat the bottom of the dish with our tomato sauce like that. Just a thin layer is fine. You don't have to have too much of it. So that's perfect. And then I'll start putting my eggplant in. And oh wow, they're wonderfully crispy. So I put a few of those, maybe 4 on the bottom. Once I do that, then I want to layer this with some cheese. This is mozzarella cheese that's been freshly grated, and you can put a nice generous amount of that on there, like so. Perfect. Once I have that, then what I like to do, you can put a Parmesan at the end, but I like to put a little Parmesan in the middle as well, so you get a beautiful flavor through the dish. So when you eat into it, you will get Parmesan through the dish. It's an eggplant Parmesan, so you have to have Parmesan, right? So drop some Parmesan in there, and then we put a little bit more of our tomato sauce on top of that. That should be good. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Remember, we drained all the salt from the eggplant. So there's not, I mean, the cheese has salt in it, but that's about it, right? So we want a little bit of salt. This is pepper, of course. So I'm putting some freshly grated pepper and some salt as well. Just a little dusting. About 1/4 teaspoon should do it. And we repeat. We put another layer. So I'm going to put more eggplants on top. And then we do the same thing all over again. Add more of the mozzarella cheese. Perfect. I'm going to leave some for the end. Some more tomato sauce. Perfect. Now that's good to go in the oven. I've heated my oven to about 350 degrees. And you can see over here, it's at temperature. So I'm going to throw it in my oven. This is going to go in the oven for about 15 minutes. Every oven is different, so watch it. You just want to melt the cheese on top. Everything's already cooked. So we put it in there for 15 minutes, and our eggplant Parmesan should be done. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare a garnish of just fresh basil. Now, you can see I've stacked some basil leaves here. And this is a classic French technique called chiffonade. It's just a fancy name for chopping basil. If you want nice long slices, you roll them lengthwise, but I want shorter ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll them on the short edge. So once I roll it, all I do is hold it in place and slice them up. And you use a nice sharp knife so you get thin, delicate slices of basil. This is going to go on top of my Parmesan to give it that nice fresh basil flavor. So if you roll it and cut it like this, it just makes life easier. and you can see the end result is you get nice little thin ribbons of basil, and that's what we want. So we'll garnish it with this when we come back. Okay, so our beautiful eggplant parmesan is ready. It's nice and hot, ready to be eaten, and you can see all the cheese is gooey and melted on top. So I'm going to garnish this with my chiffonade, like the French say, basil. So just throw a few of those on there. That should be good. And some more fresh grated Parmesan for that extra flavor. And I'll serve this up today. You can serve it with your favorite pasta. Normally it's served with spaghetti. I have some spaghetti, but I also have some tricolored rigatoni here. So that's how I'm going to serve it up. And that's it. That's the authentic way of making eggplant Parmesan, the non-breadcrumb way, purely vegetarian if you're a vegetarian. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I'll see you next time.